I am a man plagued by severe social anxiety. So much so that despite being married for 3 years, I haven't summoned the courage to meet my CEO wife, Serena, even once. Our reunion, however, happened in the most unlikely of places, a dim, thumping bar where I was trying to score a phone number for a friend. You know, I said to the beautiful woman seated there, I've basically been wifeless since I was a kid. Suddenly, the woman sitting next to her let out a cold, sharp laugh. Bryan, did I sign my marriage certificate with a dog then? That voice. It was familiar enough to turn my blood into ice. I looked closer. It was her, my temperamental wife who had been abroad for 3 years. She was back. Just moments before, my best friend had been dumped. He was currently sobbing like a child into his drink. Please, God, just send me one girlfriend. I can't handle this heartbreak anymore. He pointed toward a long-legged woman sitting in the shadows not far away and begged me, please, man, go get her number for me. I yawned. No. I'm a man of morals. I'm married, even if I haven't actually seen my wife's face in years. He looked at me with puppy dog eyes. If I don't get a beautiful girl tonight, I'm going back to being a simp for my ex. Sighing, I took his phone. A few minutes later, I put on a charming smile and tapped the woman in the shadows on the shoulder. She turned around. Hello, gorgeous. Would it be convenient to exchange WeChats? I asked politely. She looked down at me, her gaze behind gold-rimmed glasses unreadable and sharp. My friend certainly had good taste. This woman was clearly a refined, mature beauty. Her aura was completely at odds with the chaotic noise of the bar. Since she'd walked in, she had stayed in her corner, speaking occasionally to the person beside her with elegant, poised gestures. Sorry, I don't use WeChat. She rejected me without a shred of hesitation. Her eyes were as cold as morning frost. A few muffled laughs broke out from the surrounding tables. Boss, why so cold? I pressed on, determined to help my friend. I held the phone up high and gave her my most obedient, pitiful look. You know, I've basically lived without a wife since I was a kid. Look at how pathetic I am. The woman narrowed her eyes, watching my performance with zero reaction. I started to sweat. This routine worked on everyone else. Why was it failing now? Suddenly, a flash of light caught my eye. A priceless necklace around her neck stole my attention. It was a limited edition spring piece from a world-renowned brand. I knew it well. I was the one who had spent a fortune at an auction months ago to have it sent to Europe. I had sent that necklace to my wife as a peace offering, a way to nurture our long-distance affection and reassure her that she could focus on her career in Europe without worry. My excuse was always the same. My social anxiety was so crippling that I simply couldn't travel to visit her. But now, that very necklace was resting elegantly on the neck of the woman standing before me. The familiarity was haunting. A cold dread began to pool in my stomach. Around us, the crowd's laughter swelled. Boss, didn't you say your husband had social anxiety? He looks like the life of the party to me. The strobe lights cut through the shadows, casting a gloomy, predatory silhouette over Serena's profile. I spun around to bolt, but I was caught halfway and hauled back to her side. Her voice was glacial, measured, and terrifyingly calm. Bryan, you've been wifeless since you were a kid? Then, I suppose the man on my marriage certificate is a golden retriever. As I was dragged into the center of the group, I realized this was a high-stakes business gathering. Do people with social anxiety usually hang out in places like this? Serena, having found a sudden interest in her absent husband, began to focus all her attention on me. I shook my head violently like a rattle. No. This is my first time here, I swear. If Serena found out I had been living a lavish, carefree life on her dime while she was away, she would surely skin me alive. Mr. Bryan, good to see you again. Where's that girlfriend you were with last time? Suddenly, the bar owner clapped me on the shoulder with friendly familiarity. My hands began to shake as I frantically pointed toward Serena, trying to signal him to shut up. The owner realized his blunder and clamped his hand over his mouth, but it was too late. Serena let out a sharp, mirthless laugh and slammed a stack of cash onto the table. What else has he been spending on? Please don't leave anything out. The owner grinned greedily. Well, he's booked a few models here and there, he chirped. Serena's lips curled into a chilling smile. Models for a man with social anxiety. You traitor. On the drive back, Serena didn't utter a single word. She sat focused on her tablet, ruthlessly editing a contract. I sat beside her, babbling incoherently. The models, they were for my best friend. And that girl, she was just a friend's sister. She's a nice girl. She just calls everyone brother. Serena kept her head down, her expression unreadable. Her long, slender fingers tapped rhythmically against the laptop, a sound as ominous as a funeral knell. Panicked, I pulled out my phone to seek help from the group chat, only to find it had already exploded. Dozens of voice messages cluttered the screen. I winced as the audio began to play through the car speakers. I bet $100 Bryan gets her WeChat. He just said that woman has the face of someone destined for a house full of grandkids. Twin boys in one night isn't just a dream with her. I was about to type back that I had identified the wrong target, but the atmosphere in the car suddenly turned lethal. Serena glared at me, her thin lips pressed into a tight line as she fought to contain her fury. My loud-mouthed conversation from 30 minutes ago was now blaring clearly through the phone's speaker for both of us to hear. Damn, this woman is gorgeous. I'll leave her to you guys. The driver silently raised the privacy partition. In the cramped, dimly lit space, Serena set her tablet aside. A house full of grandkids, she repeated, enunciating every syllable. Her voice was like a blade of ice. Bryan, with such a great blessing awaiting you, why are you being so modest? I trembled, trying to wedge myself into the gap of the car door. I'm weak. I couldn't handle it. Serena took off her glasses, leaned back against the seat, and let out a heavy sigh, the kind that made me wonder if I had truly aged her. Just as I thought she was going to let it go, she suddenly reached out, yanked me toward her, and pinned me across her lap. She let out a cold laugh and issued a command. Take off your jacket. If you dare say no, I'll kill you. The car came to a halt in front of the old family estate, the villa glowing brightly in the middle of the night. I stepped out, trailing behind Serena. My outer layers were scattered haphazardly inside her car. She shot me a glance and reminded me coldly, button up your vest. I clicked my tongue. For a second, I thought she had been struck by a sudden wave of predatory passion. It turns out she was just bringing me back for a family dinner. As the doors opened, a young man stood waiting inside. Serena, you're back. Serena's stepfather smiled and explained, once he heard you were coming home, Ethan insisted on coming to see you. Ethan was the son of her stepfather's brother. Before the old man married Serena's mother, the two families had been very close. Rumor had it that the family used to be quite supportive of a marriage between Serena and Ethan. The plan only stalled when Ethan moved to Europe to study literature. Some even whispered that Serena's sudden departure for Europe right after marrying me was actually an attempt to pursue him. Did they actually come back together? I wondered. Her stepfather pulled out a chair, beaming. Ethan, why don't you let Serena sit next to you? Serena was about to call me over, but my eyes had already lit up at the sight of the food. My soul was practically floating toward the dining table. Is there anything to eat? I'm starving. I flopped down into the seat next to Ethan before anyone could protest. That left only one seat vacant, the one directly across from Ethan and me. Her stepfather, looking a bit awkward, had no choice but to let her sit next to him. During the meal, I sat directly opposite Serena, burying my face in my plate and eating ravenously. While I feasted, the rest of the table showered Ethan with praise for his academic success. Ethan, you're staying for good this time, right? Yes, he replied, his eyes filled with hidden meaning as he stole a bashful glance at Serena. Serena kept her head down, eating quietly and occasionally discussing business with her father, seemingly oblivious. However, in the middle of the conversation, she subtly slid the dessert I liked most across the table, straight in front of Ethan. She replaced my favorite dessert with a plate of stir-fried vegetables. Suddenly, the dining room fell deathly silent, save for the rhythmic clink of silverware. I was about to open my mouth to protest this culinary injustice when I accidentally dropped my fork. As I leaned down to retrieve it, I caught Ethan's shoe slowly sliding toward the hem of Serena's dress. The audacity. He was trying to flirt with her right under my nose. This was an open challenge. I took a deep breath, reached out, and boldly placed my hand on Serena's thigh. The chopsticks in her hand clattered onto her plate. Though we weren't exactly intimate, this move was reckless. But I didn't care. Serena, is something wrong? I asked, my face the picture of feigned innocence. Serena let out a soft cough, her expression remaining eerily calm. It's nothing. I took a bite of bread, my hand slowly inching upward. Serena's face began to stiffen. She looked up at me, her voice cutting like glass. Bryan, are you finished eating? I winked at her. Just taking a little break. I flashed a grin, but every time Ethan made a move under the table, I countered with one of my own. Serena's face grew darker by the second. Finally, she reached down, grabbed my hand with an iron grip, and pinned it there so I couldn't withdraw. Now it was my turn to panic. I stared at her, wide-eyed. "Bryan, why have you stopped eating?" she asked, her voice dripping with sudden, dangerous amusement. "Is something distracting you?" "Not at all," I replied through gritted teeth, struggling to maintain a polite smile. But then, her hand beneath the table became much more aggressive. Serena leaned in, whispering harshly, "Can't you just behave for once?" Seeing me grinning like a fool despite the tension, Serena abruptly let go and stood up. "I'm finished. Everyone, please continue." With that, she hurried upstairs under the bewildered gazes of the entire family. Ethan dropped his chopsticks and immediately chased after her. "Serena, wait. I have something I want to give you." He followed her right into her study. Later, I flopped onto the bed in our guest room, grumbling to my friends in the group chat. If she likes him so much, why the hell did she marry me? My friends were quick to stir the pot. "I bet she's just using you to show off her charms to Ethan. In an open marriage, she loses nothing. She's probably trying to make him respect her more by showing she has options." I bolted upright. "So, what do I do?" The chat erupted. Seduce her, make her fall head over heels, and then coldly dump her. Show her who's boss. A few minutes later, I crept toward the study and nudged the door open just a crack. Soft light spilled out. Serena was sitting at her computer, seemingly focused on her work. The pale blue glow of the monitor accentuated the exquisite, sharp lines of her face, making her look breathtakingly beautiful yet distant. In my earpiece, my friends were whispering frantically, "Bryan, don't be a coward. Go in there. Just strip off your shirt, show off those 8-pack abs, and give her that cold, smoldering look. If you can't take her down like this, I swear I'll eat a literal door." I gritted my teeth and suddenly shoved the door open. It hit the wall with a heavy thud, instantly grabbing her attention. Serena's gaze dropped to what I was, or rather, wasn't, wearing, her eyes darkening slightly. "Bryan, do you need something?" I stopped pretending. Clearing my throat, I walked into the room with forced nonchalance, approached her desk, and discreetly scanned the surroundings. Ethan was nowhere to be seen. Serena relaxed, leaning back against her chair. Her gaze was soft yet searching, almost as if she were daring me to make a move. I sat down right next to her, my hand grazing her leg as I flashed a grin. "Director Serena, let's have a little chat, shall we?" Her eyes flickered toward my hand. "Fine," she said softly. "Talk." "Since we clearly don't know each other well," I began, "I don't think there's any point in trying to bridge the gap. How about we just stay out of each other's business?" The room fell silent. Serena didn't even flinch. "What did you just say?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. Thinking she hadn't heard me, I raised my voice. I said, "Let's just mind our own business." At that exact moment, the door swung open again. "Serena, I think tomorrow's board meeting will." The voice of Serena's mother trailed off. In a flash, Serena yanked me toward her, pulling me into her lap, the desk perfectly concealed where my hands were. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Serena asked. The sudden silence made the atmosphere excruciatingly awkward. My mind went completely blank with panic. I wished the floor would open up and swallow me whole. Don't expect me to explain. My social anxiety was currently redlining. Serena's mother cleared her throat. "I had something to discuss, but it seems now is not a good time." As I sat trapped in Serena's arms, I caught a fleeting smirk on her lips when she noticed my ears turning bright red. "Mom, I was the one who called him in here," Serena said, taking full responsibility. Her mother looked away, awkwardly scratching her head. "Young people, you're full of fire, but you really should pay attention to the setting. Bryan is still young. Don't go pestering the poor boy all the time." Serena listened to the lecture with mock seriousness. "I won't let it happen again, Mother." As soon as her mother hurried out, the room returned to a heavy silence. The searing heat of Serena's body radiated through her dress, unmistakable against my skin. The position was far too suggestive, especially the sensation from below that made me terrified to even flinch. After a long, agonizing silence, a teasing voice floated down from above. "Do you enjoy showing off your abs that much? Kill me now." She was mocking me again. Amidst her soft laughter, I scrambled out of her grip and fled the room as fast as my legs could carry me. The next day, I retreated to my apartment in the city to hide. To my surprise, Serena's assistant followed me right to my doorstep. She carried several shopping bags into the master bedroom, smiling as she spoke. "General Manager Serena bought a few shirts for you," she said. "You'd know exactly how to handle them." My face flushed crimson as I shoved every single one of them under the bed. I didn't have time for her games today. I had a book signing to attend. 3 years ago, an online friend discovered my writing. It started as a short story of just a few hundred words, but once I began, I couldn't stop. To date, I've written over 6 million words. Of course, there is one secret I can never let Serena find out. I once used our real names to write a web novel. It's still sitting at the top of the completed works rankings. Whenever you search for Serena online, the results don't just show her business profile, they also list her as the most captivating female protagonist in web fiction. Who would have thought my random hobby would land her on a leaderboard like that? Luckily, Serena doesn't care about the world of online literature. She'll likely go her whole life without ever knowing. The signing was held at a bustling downtown center, drawing a massive crowd of fans. Besides signing books, the organizers had scheduled a Q&A session. Just as Serena happened to be leading a business inspection delegation through the mall, a young fan asked enthusiastically, "Hubby, when is the sequel for The Legend of Serena being released?" I smiled and replied, "It's currently in the editing phase. We're just waiting for the right moment." As I looked up, my heart skipped a beat. Serena was standing on the second-floor balcony, looking down. She was listening intently to my speech. Even from that distance, I felt like I could see one of her eyebrows arching in curiosity. A cold sweat broke out across my back. I felt like my cover was about to be blown sky-high. To make matters worse, the fans brought fan art and physical adaptations of the Serena character, demanding I display them and do a live reading of certain passages. Serena stood there like a looming statue, taking in every word of the interview. The moment the event ended, I vanished into the crowd and bolted for home. On the way back, I received a frantic message from my agent, Mark. "Why is everyone attacking you? Ethan's fans are claiming your book is a plagiarism of his." Ethan, the very same one from dinner, had become a rising star in the web literature scene over the last few years. During his low-traffic days, he had clawed his way to the top through copy-pasting and clever editing. Recently, he had sneakily inserted Serena's image into his books and lifted several of my key plot points. His fans, ignoring the original publication dates, were now blindly accusing me of plagiarism based purely on their devotion to him. Mark scoffed over the phone. He's probably shaking in his boots right now because of his own fans' stupidity. I felt a tightening in my chest, a suffocating weight. "Don't get worked up," Mark consoled me. "The situation is actually playing into our hands." I stared at the trending search list, the numbers climbing rapidly. My head throbbed. I wondered why this mess had to happen now, and in this specific way. Could I keep my secret buried forever? If Serena found even a trace, I sat in a cafe near my apartment, too anxious to go home. Suddenly, a familiar voice drifted from behind me. I turned around to see Ethan sitting with a group of young women. One girl across from him looked at him with pure adoration. "Ethan, your writing is so much better than Bryan's. You have to keep going, okay?" Ethan replied with a smug, cheerful tone. "This book is currently in publishing negotiations. When it's released, I'll send you a signed copy." "That's amazing." "Thank you," the girl chirped. I gripped my coffee cup, stood up, and approached them. "You're Ethan, right?" The girl across from him shot me a dissatisfied glare. "Who are you?" I offered a thin, polite smile. "I'm Bryan." The girl's jaw dropped. She gathered her things in a huff and hurried away, leaving a vacant seat. I sat down directly across from Ethan. "I apologize if my fans have been bothering you lately. I hope you don't take it to heart. I know you started writing earlier than me, but I haven't actually read your work yet." Ethan paused, then let out a condescending chuckle. "Actually, I find some of your segments quite humiliating. They aren't exactly fit for a mature audience." I let out a cold laugh. "Then explain to me why your female lead's growth, background, personality, and even her living environment are carbon copies of mine." Ethan stammered, "If you can use a female lead as material, why can't others?" I suddenly remembered that the male lead in Ethan's book had also studied in Europe, pining for the female lead for 10 years before returning home to fulfill his dream. I lost all desire to continue the conversation. As I stood up to leave, I leaned in. Mr. Ethan, the matter of Serena and I getting a divorce is far from settled. Don't start daydreaming too early. Ethan was so livid he couldn't find his voice. The moment I got home, I locked myself in my study. I opened both our works and began a line-by-line timeline comparison. It was sickening to see my own words skillfully integrated into his prose. What stung more were the comments from new readers. So good. Such a brilliant, creative author. This is the best thing I've ever read. I felt a bitter knot in my throat, overwhelmed by a wave of raw emotion. It was late into the night when Serena pushed open the study door. She found me sitting alone in the dark before the glowing monitor, my eyes bloodshot, muttering under my breath, "Thief, I'll send you all to hell." She flipped the light switch and approached. "Bryan, what's wrong with you?" Panicked, I tried to shut the computer down, but her hand clamped over mine, stopping me. "Why are you acting so flustered?" she asked coolly. "It's just a novel where you used me as the lead, isn't it? Is it worth losing sleep and skipping meals over?" I felt a surge of relief that she hadn't reported my extracurricular activities to my parents. Before the wedding, my father had lectured me repeatedly about not being reckless after marriage. He believed that as long as I stayed out of trouble, Serena could take care of me for a lifetime. But I wasn't a lump of clay to be molded. I had my own passions and ideas. I held onto the laptop firmly. "I'm being slandered," I blurted out. Serena paused. "By who?" Minutes later, Serena was seated at the desk, staring intently at the screen filled with red highlighted passages. She murmured, "It's only missing my social security number to explicitly state I'm the female lead." I sat beside her like a student caught in a prank, stealing glances at her every few seconds. The reflection on her glasses showed the scrolling text like a predatory light. It felt like a criminal waste to have eyes trained for multi-million-dollar contracts reading through web fiction drama. After a while, Serena sighed and removed her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose. I ventured a suggestion. Maybe I should just handle this myself?" She opened her eyes and looked at me. "It's fine. I can handle reading the criticisms against me." But clearly, she trailed off. The second half of the story hadn't been kind to her character. She looked at me, her eyes slightly rimmed with red, and murmured with uncharacteristic seriousness, "Try to be a bit more sincere next time." I smiled weakly. "I thought you hated my jokes? Now you're asking for sincerity." Serena shifted from defense to offense, looking at me with a trace of bewilderment. "Relying on you is worse than relying on myself." The study fell silent. I awkwardly pointed to one of Ethan's paragraphs. "Please, highlight the gentler parts." He copied those word for word. Serena maneuvered the cursor, slowly selecting the text. "You prefer the more aggressive style?" she asked. "It's all right," I replied. While we worked on the timeline, the public outcry online reached a fever pitch. I had posted my chapters long before Ethan. How could they claim I was the one plagiarizing? Despite the evidence and screenshots proving Ethan had lifted from me, his fans moved like a swarm, spreading lies faster than the truth could catch up. To make matters worse, Ethan posted a status update. "Creativity is my core principle. This story is an adaptation of my own life. The female lead is based on a real person." With that single statement, Serena's real identity was swiftly exposed. Former classmates began chiming in, confirming that Ethan and Serena had attended the same high school before parting ways after the entrance exams. To the public, it now looked like Ethan was the true, male lead of Serena's life. Fury boiling over, I reached into my drawer. I was ready to post our marriage certificate for the whole world to see. I went to log in, only to find that my account had been banned. On the other end of the phone, Mark was so livid he was practically jumping out of his skin. "Those people play dirty," he hissed. "They spammed reports in such a short window that the system flagged you. Since you don't post often, your account's authority score is low, and the automated system nuked you. We can't fix this over the weekend. We need to find a high-traffic account to fight back." I watched as I was dragged through the mud on the trending searches. People called me a delusional creep who was sick with love. Some even swarmed Serena's Weibo, spamming the romantic passages I had written about her character. "We heard the Bi Group's legal team is terrifying. Bryan is literally fantasizing about you online. Aren't you going to sue him? He's harassing you. Aren't you going to explain yourself? What's the deal between you and Ethan? Are you guys childhood sweethearts?" The fire soon spread to our parents. My mother called me instantly, her voice trembling with rage. What on earth are you writing? What is this nonsense? It's not nonsense, Mom. It's just a hobby. She cut me off without hesitation. What decent young man posts such drivel on the internet? Your mother-in-law just called me. Go find Serena right now and explain yourself. She slammed the phone down before I could respond. My family has always been deeply traditional. My parents were business-obsessed workaholics who only cared that I studied hard and lived a proper life. No one ever cared what I actually liked or what I wanted to be. Back when I applied for university, they crossed out my choice of literature and forced me into economics and management. I had hoped that after getting married and moving out, things would finally be different. I drove to Serena's corporate headquarters. She had just finished an important meeting and was stepping out of the conference room, flanked by a pack of financial reporters. Somehow, an entertainment tabloid reporter had managed to slip into the crowd. She thrust her phone forward, asking brazenly, "Miss Serena, how do you feel about being written into such a trashy, scandalous romance story? Will your legal team be seeking damages? Do you have a comment?" Serena stopped mid-sentence. On the reporter's phone screen, thousands of comments were mocking me. Serena glanced at the phone, then looked the reporter dead in the eye. "Security, escort this woman out." As she spoke, she spotted me standing by the entrance, looking utterly pathetic. Serena unclipped the lapel mic from her suit and borrowed a handheld one from a nearby staffer. She pushed through the crowd, walked straight up to me, and naturally took my hand in hers. Turning back to her colleagues and the stunned press, she said firmly, "I apologize. I have a family matter to attend to. I'll be leaving first." She pulled me along, and we encountered no resistance as we glided toward her private office. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, its final rays sliced by the window blinds into long, warm strips of amber light. Serena led me to the sofa and turned to pour a glass of warm water. "You could have just called me about this, you know?" She pulled out her phone and began scrolling. A few minutes later, my own phone buzzed with a notification. Serena had just used her verified corporate account to publicly tag me. Attached was a simple, 3-word caption: "We are married." That brief yet explosive response was immediately pinned to the top of all her official company advertisements and news feeds. Almost instantly, it rocketed to the top of the trending charts. The tide turned in a heartbeat. Serena and Bryan are actually a couple? My fans were moved to tears, tagging Ethan relentlessly in the comments. "Come out and look. You've been pining for a married woman. Have you no shame?" Ethan went silent. Serena calmly picked up her coat. "What do you want for dinner tonight?" Are you planning on coming home?" I asked tentatively. Serena let out a soft, amused huff. "May I ask where else a married woman like me is supposed to go if not home?" Serena took the wheel for the drive back. The evening traffic was dense and crawling. I sat in the passenger seat, fidgeting nervously because my mother was currently calling Serena's phone, and it was on speaker. "Serena, dear, I'm so sorry," my mother's voice crackled. "It's our fault for not raising him with more discipline." Serena kept her eyes on the road, her index finger tapping a light, rhythmic thump-thump against the steering wheel. "It's nothing important, Mom. What matters is that he enjoys it." The brilliant sunset, looking like shattered fireworks, draped across her face and shoulders. In the midst of the noisy traffic, her warm voice was strangely soothing, melting the anxiety in my chest. I stared at her, dazed, catching the faint trace of a smile on her lips as she continued. It would be a pity if interesting things disappeared just because no one supported them. My mother sighed. "But social media is so complicated. He doesn't have much experience. If it weren't for you helping him, I'm afraid."
"Don't worry, Mom.
"I'll handle everything." A surge of genuine emotion rose in my heart, but before it could fully take root, a realization hit me. Wait, what exactly did she mean by interesting things? As she hung up, I asked hesitantly, Have you actually read my story?" Serena didn't miss a beat. "I have." I shivered. She added casually, "It's actually quite good. Hurry up with the new chapters, hubby." I silently retreated into the corner of my seat and whipped out my phone. Brothers code red. That night, the group chat exploded once again. "Save Bryan. Why does she like reading your stuff? What happens when she gets to the intimate scenes?" My legs felt weak just thinking about it. "Don't ask me. I don't want to know." In our world, an author's pseudonym is their life and death. Now that my pen name was exposed and discovered by the very protagonist herself, I might as well be clinically dead. One of the guys in the chat suggested, "Why not just go for it? You're already legally married. Whatever happens between you two is perfectly normal." I took a shower and lay in bed, my mind racing. Usually, Serena spent her nights in the study. But was it really impossible for us to move forward? I bolted upright, determined to finally have a real conversation with her. The study had a large window where the neon lights of the city bled in, staying bright all night long. When I pushed the door open, only a single dim lamp was lit. Serena was sitting in front of the computer. The silent scroll of her mouse made the faint, clicking sounds of a predator waiting in the dark. She looked up, her gaze languid. Still awake. Her voice was incredibly soft. I hovered at the door, hesitating. "You aren't asleep yet either." She stared at me, her expression unreadable. There was something possessive, something predatory in her eyes. My palms began to sweat from the tension. I just wanted to come in and thank you. Then come in and thank me properly. I had planned to give a quick thanks and retreat to my bedroom, but now there was no room for retreat. The neon glow through the glass carved out Serena's elegant, refined silhouette. I stepped inside, keeping a careful distance. Serena took off her glasses and closed her eyes. "Bryan, how exactly do you plan on thanking me?" The question floored me. Recalling my friend's expert advice and fueled by a sudden, inexplicable surge of courage, I pulled up my shirt to show off my abs. "Like this. This is how I'm thanking you." They called it recycling, an old trick to make it even more powerful. I, however, felt like this was more of a desperate last resort. I truly had no idea how to seduce someone. Serena's gaze slowly dragged across my frame, and then she let out a sudden, low laugh. "Bryan, is this your only move? Are you trying to tease me?" My face went up in flames. The embarrassment was so intense I wanted to sprint back to my room and never listen to those idiots in the group chat ever again. I'm leaving." Before I could finish the sentence, Serena lunged forward, catching me in her arms. A split second later, her searing kiss landed against the curve of my neck. Change of plans, I thought, dazed. "I actually really like this." "If you're going to be like this," she whispered, "isn't that considered cheating?" It was then that I caught a glimpse of what was on her computer screen. My heart stopped. They were the deleted scenes from my novel, the ones too spicy to be published. I felt a wave of pure, unadulterated terror. "What's the matter?" she whispered, her breath warm against my skin. "I'm a reader too, isn't that right? Why shouldn't I be allowed to see them?" The shadows in the room took on a hazy, sultry hue, sending jolts through my already frayed nerves. Her arms looped around my neck, tightening her grip on my oversized shirt until the fabric was a wrinkled mess. The atmosphere shifted. The air grew thick, electric, and dangerously hot. "Serena, what are you doing?" Her soft laughter rippled through the darkness. "Hubby, look at the screen. Why don't we try doing exactly what you wrote, HM?" I suddenly remembered my past frustration, back when I was so annoyed by her grandkids' comment that I nearly fainted. Who would have thought the tables would turn like this? The next morning, Serena handed the task of protecting my intellectual property over to her elite legal team. I found myself sitting in the middle of a high-level meeting. The legal experts opposite me stared at the color-coded plagiarism charts in dead silence. I felt like dying. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to subject a bunch of lawyers to my spicy web novel plots." Serena, however, remained the picture of corporate poise. "Resolve this quickly," she commanded. Within days, my novel shot back to the top of the trending lists. But this time, netizens were treating it like a work of nonfiction realism. Does Serena really use silk ties to bind his hands like in Chapter 45? As expected of the #1 ranked CEO. Her personality is so multifaceted. "Author, I beg you, more chapters. I want to see what your daily life is actually like." A few days after signing the power of attorney, Ethan received a formal lawyer's letter. I was suing him for every cent he was worth. The film and television rights for his books, which had been in negotiation, were immediately frozen. A week later, while heading out for a business meeting, I ran into Ethan in front of a publishing house. His documents scattered across the pavement, his pen name visible on the cover page. I ignored him and kept walking, but he called out from behind me. "I admit she's helping you a lot. But if she knew the person you were suing was me, what do you think she'd do?" Caught by my confused expression, Ethan whipped out his phone and dialed Serena. As soon as the call connected, he burst into pathetic, theatrical sobs. Serena, I never told you, but everything in my book is true. I've loved you in secret for years. Please, can you tell them to stop the lawsuit? I don't know what Serena said on the other end, but after Ethan hung up, he shot me a triumphant, smug grin. You're out of your mind if you think you've won, he sneered. I rolled my eyes and walked away, refusing to give him the satisfaction. However, after my meeting, I habitually opened Serena's social media profile. The married announcement post was gone, entirely deleted. Even the lawyer's letter on the law firm's official page had vanished. The internet was already beginning to spiral into a fresh wave of rumors. Almost as soon as the post was deleted, a fresh wave of threads erupted online to dissect the situation. What's going on? Trouble in paradise. I told you so, it was all just a PR stunt. Based on the plot points of both books, my guess is Ethan and Serena were childhood sweethearts. Serena couldn't have him when he went abroad, so she settled for a family-arranged marriage. That lawsuit was probably just her way of forcing him to submit to her. To the person above, I think you've been reading too many romance novels for more than 180 minutes. Hey, art reflects life. I exited the app and called Serena, but her assistant picked up. Mr. Bryan, Miss Serena just stepped out. She left in a hurry and forgot her phone. Do you have a message you'd like me to pass along? No need. I calmly tucked the phone into my pocket, walked a few paces, and then suddenly spun around. I hailed a taxi and went straight to Serena's headquarters. Seeing me storm in with such fierce momentum, no one dared to block my path. I marched right into her office and demanded, "Give me her phone." The assistant looked like she was holding a hot potato, hesitantly handing the device over. I tried several passwords, Serena's birthday, my birthday, but none worked. I gave up, handed the phone back, and amidst her confused gaze, I messaged my manager, Mark. Aren't we supposed to go to that out-of-town event? Let's leave right now. By nightfall, Mark and I were soaking in the pool of a 5-star hotel. He watched the beautiful women lounging on the deck and clicked his tongue. You really just ran away? Didn't you say conflicts should be resolved face-to-face? I took a sip of my cocktail, leaning back against the ancient stone tiles with a weary sigh. I don't have the face for that. Initially, I had stormed into her office full of bravado, ready to demand answers. But she wasn't there. It felt like throwing a punch into a bale of cotton. Once I calmed down, the courage vanished. Mark laughed. Aren't you just refusing to admit you actually like her? It's weird, I muttered. If she really deleted that post because of Ethan, wouldn't I just be making a fool of myself by asking? I'd rather live comfortably like this for now. As long as I don't admit I care, I won't be the one losing face. Mark's expression turned complicated. Seriously? You two are literally married. What are you even talking about? A surge of grievance welled up in my chest, fueling my irritation. I slammed my hand against the surface of the water and shouted, "We're just normal friends. It's just like..." I pointed blindly at a girl swimming nearby and yelled in a fit of rage. Marrying Serena was a total mistake. Mark went silent. More accurately, his gaze slowly drifted to a point directly behind me. I felt a human shadow stretch over me, cold and looming. Craning my neck back, I met a familiar face, one that possessed a strange mix of softness and intoxicating allure. Serena had clearly just arrived, still looking a bit travel-worn, not even having had the chance to change out of her overcoat. She stood on the deck above me, her lips curling into a frigid smile. Without a word, she hauled me out of the pool, her grip devoid of any warmth. Mark gave me a silent, "Good luck," look before sinking beneath the surface like a submarine. The moment we entered the hotel room, Serena threw me onto the bed and began unbuttoning my jacket without a word. While I was still struggling to process the situation, she snatched my own necktie and bound my hands together, tight. I was trapped, pinned to the mattress, left entirely at her mercy. "Bryan, why is it that you can't seem to remember anything?" Serena whispered, nipping lightly at my ear. Her voice was a dangerous blend of punishment and desire. "Remember what?" I grumbled, my heart hammering against my ribs. Serena asked coldly, "Didn't I tell you before? The phone password is our anniversary." "Our anniversary?" I stammered, my mind going blank. Suddenly, a phone was shoved into my bound hands. Serena let out a soft, sharp breath, her voice an absolute command. "Enter the password. If you get it wrong, don't even think about sleeping tonight." I looked down, it was Serena's phone. Cold sweat began to pour down my back. Damn it. The anniversary. She had probably mentioned it once, but when? Serena seemed to read the struggle on my face. She let out a soft, sharp laugh. It sounded like a death sentence being handed down. Gritting her teeth, she enunciated every digit. 1,
4, 1,
0. I tremulously entered the numbers.
click.
The screen unlocked. My legs went weak. On the display was a notification from earlier this morning. Your content has been temporarily hidden due to comments violating community guidelines. Please moderate the comment section before filing an appeal. Serena sighed, her voice laced with disappointment. If you had remembered our anniversary or simply waited for me to finish work and come home, you wouldn't have said those stupid things tonight. I scrolled through the hidden comments, nearly tripping over my own pants in shock. I never expected the opposition to play so dirty. They had hired a bot army to spam pornographic links in the comment section, triggering an automatic system lock on Serena's post and the law firm's statement. Naturally, her marriage announcement had been hidden along with them. But, Ethan called you right in front of me, I stammered. And then you left so suddenly, I thought. At the mention of Ethan, Serena remained indifferent. My assistant told me she received a call from some man this morning. He was sobbing and talking nonsense. She couldn't even understand what he was trying to say. Her voice turned icy. If he's upset, he can talk to a lawyer. Why the hell is he looking for me? Exactly. Let me handle him, I said, trying to get back on her good side. I quickly pulled up her call history and found a coldly labeled contact. Delivery person for Director Zhao. That's the one. I pointed out. Serena didn't even look. I don't remember. I pulled out my own phone to cross-reference. Sure enough, it was Ethan's number. That guy was even more devious than I thought. He wasn't even a saved contact in her phone. Serena reached over and flicked off the main lights, leaving only a dim bedside lamp glowing. Now, Bryan, shall we continue where we left off? I clutched my chest. I feel a sudden pain in my heart. Serena laughed, a hint of genuine irritation in her voice. And what exactly is your heart aching about? I racked my brain and suddenly launched a counterattack. You can't blame me for the misunderstanding. You personally brought him dessert at the table during that family dinner. Serena paused, deep in thought. You mean the time I swapped your dessert for stir-fried water spinach? Do you even remember what that dessert was? And since when do you like vegetables? The room went quiet for a moment before she spoke softly. Idiot. Stop talking. I'm afraid you're going to provoke me to death. No, let's be clear about this. Serena pulled me into a tight embrace, her eyes shimmering with a dreamy, hazy light in the dimness. Suddenly, a memory flickered in my mind. One New Year's, while Serena was stuck abroad, she had called me. A friend is returning home this year, she had said. There's a bakery here with incredible pastries. I could have them bring some back for you. How had I responded? Thanks, but I'm not really into sweets. Do they have stir-fried water spinach there? Serena had paused for a long time before answering. I can't exactly ship that, but I'll find someone local to send some over to you. She had remembered my sarcastic comment about the vegetables all this time. She let out a cold laugh. Bryan, you really are a piece of work. I specifically placed that water spinach in front of you at dinner, and that is all you remember? I shrunk back, trying to escape, but she held me fast. I was forced to endure a very difficult night. By dawn, Serena was finally finishing the last of the notes on her phone. Last year, you told me you didn't like stuffed animals, right? Bryan, you like to lie, and liars must be punished. I think you know what comes next. I get it. Let's just get it over with. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a frantic pounding on the door. Mark burst in. The author's convention is about to start. Why are you still in bed? I stood up, my legs feeling like jelly, and opened the door with a flushed face. Serena was casually pouring milk for me. Mark froze for a second, then grinned. I see. Miss Serena, will you be attending as well? Serena gave a soft smile. It wouldn't be appropriate. I grabbed a piece of toast from the table, gave Serena a quick kiss, and said, I'm heading out first. Serena had some business to attend to and would stay for a few days before returning home with me once the event concluded. As soon as I arrived at the venue, I became the center of attention. Bryan and Ethan appearing at the same time? This was the drama everyone was waiting for. Sure enough, just a few paces away, I saw Ethan surrounded by a swarm of fans. He was clearly relishing the spotlight. Even before the event officially started, he was already interacting with viewers on a live stream. Plagiarism? No such thing, he claimed smugly. The publishing rights and film options are moving forward as planned. Nothing has been affected. I shot a confused look at Mark, who looked awkward. Bryan, you know how it is. Since the manuscripts leaked, the fan wars have only driven engagement through the roof. Investors saw the hype and decided to buy in. In this day and age, as long as there's money to be made, who cares about plagiarism? No matter how bad a thief is, as long as they're famous, they'll always have defenders. I took a deep breath. So, he just gets away with it? Mark pulled me down into a seat. Just sit tight for now. Don't be in such a hurry, Mark whispered. Ms. Serena's legal team is formidable. They might just win the case. But lawsuits aren't settled overnight. By the time a verdict is reached, a plagiarizer has already cashed out. A few $1,000s in damages is nothing to people like him. It seemed the organizers of the No Quiet program had deliberately arranged our seats next to each other. When my eyes met Ethan's, he smirked. I went to a fortune teller recently, he said smugly. They told me I was about to hit a streak of incredible luck. Look at this. Isn't it starting already? I leaned in and whispered back, whether it's publishing or a film adaptation, if you manage to successfully negotiate even one of them, I'll consider it my loss. And why is that? He sneered. I rested my chin on my hand and winked. Because I have money. Ethan sat beside me, looking indignant, yet he hugged a pillow and pretended to greet the readers with a fake smile. I waved back to the crowd, murmuring under my breath, money truly is a respectable thing. By the time the convention ended, the audience hadn't witnessed the brawl they were hoping for. Instead, a photo of the two of us looking friendly together hit the trending searches. The comments were a mess. What is this? A peace treaty? Who knows? Smiling to your face, stabbing you in the back. But if Ethan thinks he can mess with Bryan, he's mistaken. Bryan has a solid foundation. Ethan has nothing. When the event finally wrapped up, I got into the car, rubbed my aching ankles, and called Serena. I'm done. The call connected instantly, but the background was noisy. Where are you? I asked. A business gala. I thought for a moment. Is the CEO of Jiahong Entertainment there? Serena seemed to scan the room for a moment. She is, Bryan. I had only asked on a whim, but it turned out to be a direct hit. Great. Wait for me, I'm almost there. Mark rolled up his sleeves and pulled out a thick stack of documents. Time to get to work. This time, we're definitely wrecking Ethan's plans. The atmosphere at the gala was vibrant. Serena spotted me almost the second I walked in. You found me fast, she noted. I approached her, glancing across the room. Over there, the head of Jiahong Entertainment, Auntie Sophia, was sitting on a sofa with a wine glass in hand. Her gaze was fixed somewhat gloomily on a young man not far away. I walked over and stepped directly into her line of sight. Is there a problem? She asked, pulling her gaze back to me. I placed the thick pile of documents on the table in front of her. Auntie Sophia, I'm here to discuss a collaboration. She glanced at the titles of the two books and chuckled. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in your little literary feud. Besides, that book was selected by our marketing department. That means it has market value, so I have no reason to reject it. I am well aware that a little borrowing isn't considered a deal breaker in this industry. I began, my voice steady. But what if the author himself becomes a liability? Auntie Sophia narrowed her eyes, her interest piqued. What exactly do you mean by that? I offered a thin, calculated smile. Auntie Sophia, Ethan has publicly declared that his book is based on the persona of my wife. In fact, he's admitted it in a group chat of 500 people. I handed her my phone, displaying a series of screenshots sent to me by fans. Several segments of that book are defamatory toward her character, and I intend to pursue this matter to the fullest extent of the law. Sophia leaned back, her expression regaining its corporate neutrality. We have a team of screenwriters. They can easily scrub those elements. You can sue the author all you want, but that has nothing to do with us. I widened my eyes in mock realization. True. But consider this. Over the next 6 months, we're going to hit him with at least 2 major lawsuits. These things can drag on for a year, maybe 2. Every 3 or 4 months, I'll make sure he lands on the trending searches with fresh evidence of his plagiarism. I leaned in closer. That's going to be a lot of extra work for your screenwriters, constantly revising a script for 2 years before you even hit pre-production. By the time this project actually sees the light of day, for years will have passed. Of course, a powerhouse like Jiahong Entertainment isn't afraid of a little trouble, right? Sophia let out a short, sharp laugh. You're truly determined to burn this bridge, aren't you? When you've been bullied this long, I replied with a grin. You have to find a way to let off some steam. Finally, Sophia yielded. In this business, if a project brings more headaches than profit, walking away is the only logical choice. With the film studio pulling out, the publishing house followed suit almost immediately. Mark had already started spreading the word through industry circles. The publishers didn't even argue. They simply canceled the contract. Other investors, sensing blood in the water and not knowing the full story, were too terrified to touch Ethan with a 10-foot pole. Triumphant, we retreated to a quiet corner of the gala to celebrate. By the time Serena came to find me, I was more than a little tipsy. On the drive back to the hotel, I mindlessly scrolled through Auntie Sophia's social media feed. Wait, that guy looks familiar. It hit me. He was the youngest son of the Brown family. I vaguely recalled he was supposed to be engaged to someone else. From the looks of Sophia's posts, it seemed she had snatched him away for herself. I mulled over this juicy bit of gossip with a satisfied smirk while Serena watched me. I leaned my head against her shoulder, giggling. Can you help me investigate something? I was practically buzzing with excitement. Serena let out a soft laugh at my antics. And if I can't investigate it right this second? I grabbed her hand and pressed it firmly against my stomach. Then just give me a little rub right here. Serena reached out and flicked off the reading light, plunging the car into a soft darkness. Her long, nimble fingers began to trace patterns over my stomach, sending a ticklish shiver through me. I squirmed under her touch like a stranger was teasing me. Keep scratching right there, I mumbled. Serena's voice turned low and slightly raspy. You've only been wearing this shirt for a moment. Be careful, or you'll wrinkle it. She didn't say much else. When one is drunk, one shouldn't talk too much anyway. In the end, I never did get the scoop on Annie Sophia's drama that night. A few days later, because Ethan's work had lost all commercial value and was mired in the plagiarism scandal, the hosting site finally pulled his novel. A massive crowd gathered in the comment sections to gossip. So it really was plagiarism. He's so stubborn for not admitting it. Ethan's fans were torn to shreds. You guys are just blind lapdogs for a thief. Ethan eventually deleted his cryptic status updates, but still refused to issue an apology. That weekend, Serena and I went to her father's house for dinner. Her father sighed with a hint of regret. Ethan grew up with you since you were kids. Wasn't what you did a bit too cold-hearted? Serena's brow furrowed. We were just high school classmates. If you want to invite him over for dinner, that's your business. But if you feel he's more suited to be family than Bryan is, I suggest you divorce my mother and move in with Ethan so you two can live happily ever after. Serena's stepmother lowered her head, intently sipping her soup, while her father's face turned ashen. He didn't dare utter another word. On the way home, my curiosity got the better of me. If it wasn't because of Ethan, then why did you go to Europe right after we got married? Serena sighed. It was strictly business. The overseas market was incredibly competitive back then. To expand our corporate footprint, I had to be there. So that's the reason you stayed away for 3 years? Serena offered a playful smile. Well, which version do you want to discuss? The business one, or the one where my husband was so socially anxious he was too afraid to even look at his own wife? Fine, if you must know. Part of the reason I stayed away was because of you. A few weeks later, Ethan burst into my office, bypassed my assistant, and charged toward my desk. Bryan, you play dirty. If security hadn't tackled him, he probably would have tried to slap me. I simply shrugged. I can't help it. I just can't stand seeing a thief get away with it. Ethan was practically screaming. It's because you're talentless. You're just jealous of me. I let out a cold laugh. Jealous of what? Your supreme plagiarism skills? If you've got the guts, write something original that actually earns praise. I promise I won't lift a finger against you then. Surprisingly, several months later, Ethan actually managed to write a book that performed quite well on the charts. Watching the numbers climb day by day, Mark sighed. I hate to admit it, but the guy actually has some talent. Your arch-nemesis isn't entirely useless. I clicked through to the final chapter of his new work, muttering to myself, something's off. This isn't his usual style. Sure enough, a few days later, an unknown amateur author suddenly broke their silence online. To anyone passing by, please help me seek justice. Ethan stole my manuscript, polished it, and promised me half of the royalties. But to this day, I haven't received a single penny. I'm stuck in a rented room and can't even afford a decent meal. This time, no one stood up for him. The internet erupted in a firestorm of criticism. No wonder Bryan ripped him to shreds. He's nothing but a fraud who stitches hot tropes together. Get this industry parasite out of here. Caught red-handed, Ethan hastily deleted the work and posted an apology, claiming he had finally transferred the royalties to the original author. However, netizens were quick to dig up his old post. Originality is my final boundary. They reposted it with scathing irony. Where's your dignity? Your boundary must have been drilled straight down to the Earth's core by now. From that day on, Ethan's account went silent. Meanwhile, my novel was officially published and the book signing was packed with fans. I was so busy, I barely had time to sip water. When I finally caught a break, I tucked myself into a corner with a small pastry, calling Serena. You really should have come today. After all, you're the leading lady. Serena was busy but replied softly. Eat slowly. Save half that cake for me. Sure thing, honey, I replied, but before I could finish, my vision suddenly went dark. A woman in a baseball cap appeared out of nowhere. Do you need something? I asked, confused. She suddenly raised a mineral water bottle and threw the contents straight at my head. Bryan, go to hell. Cold liquid drenched me. The world seemed to stop. The crowd froze in collective shock. Scenes from news reports and movies flashed through my mind like a slow-motion film. A terrifying thought struck me. Acid. Amidst the screaming of the crowd, I lunged blindly toward the decorative fountain in the center of the lobby. By the time Serena arrived at the hospital, her expression was so icy it could have frozen the room. I was curled up on the hospital bed, my arm wrapped in bandages, my eyes red and watery. Your wife is here, a nurse whispered. Seeing Serena approach the bed, I instinctively pulled the blanket up to hide my head. What did the doctor say? She asked, her voice tight. A fractured arm. Just needs treatment, it's nothing major, I mumbled from under the covers. What did she splash on him? Mineral water, Mark sighed. It was just a massive scare. His most serious injury was actually from slipping on a banana peel and breaking his arm. I hadn't realized the fountain was that shallow. I dived in with such heroic momentum that while the water did wash my face, it absolutely wrecked my arm. Unsurprisingly, a video of me head diving into the fountain had already surfaced online. After Mark left, it was just me and Serena in the hospital room. She sat down beside me and pulled back the blanket I was hiding under. What are you hiding for? I was afraid you'd laugh at me. Serena looked at my bandaged wrist. Even if the result looked a bit silly, your decision was the right one. In that moment, there was no better move than jumping into the water. My eyes lit up at her praise. Come here, lie down with me for a bit. Serena was always so pristine, carrying a unique, subtle fragrance. She let out a soft laugh at my antics, gave me a gentle kiss, and said, Rest for a few days. I'll take care of the rest. A few days later, I was discharged. It was a rare occasion for Serena to take a holiday just to stay home and look after me. That day, while I was lying next to her scrolling through my phone, news about Ethan suddenly exploded across the internet. He was suspected of inciting an assault and had been taken into custody. What's going on? I asked, startled. Serena, calmly peeling an apple for me, replied, The person who splashed you was a former fan of Ethan's. I saw the chat logs between them online. In the screenshots, a devoted fan had voiced her support. It's so unfair for our little Ethan. Ethan had sighed in response. There's nothing I can do. A tall tree catches much wind. It's only natural for others to be jealous. The fan replied, He has a book signing today. Where is it? Blue Bay Plaza, I think. Little Ethan, wait for me. I'm going to get revenge for you. Ethan had simply replied with a thank you emoji. After the incident, a panicked Ethan immediately posted a clarification. I thought she was just joking. I had no idea she would actually go. I oppose all illegal acts and hope everyone watches their words. But beneath his post, the public sentiment was vitriolic. You're as ugly as you are stupid. Regardless of whether your fan was right or wrong, the moment trouble hits, you throw her under the bus. Disgusting. We're calling you out, Ethan. Specifically you. Serena took the phone from my hand. Ethan has tried calling you several times. I don't want to hear from him, I replied. I've already blocked his number, she added casually. It didn't take a genius to figure out what Ethan wanted now, but his chances were officially dead. A few days later, Ethan deleted his accounts and vanished from the public eye. Rumor had it he was being sued by over 10 different authors for plagiarism. The damages alone would bankrupt him. As summer bled into autumn, the long, rhythmic rains returned. But this time, the story had reached its perfect conclusion. With the arrival of the fall breeze, my novel remained a bestseller, and the bandages were finally removed from my arm. Serena took me to Europe for a vacation. While standing in the very office where she had worked for 3 years, I noticed something unexpected. A massive shopping center across the street, its name an abbreviation of my own initials. "When did you build that?" I asked, turning to her. She calmly unclasped her watch and set it on the desk. "I've been planning it since before we were married. It just finished sooner than expected." She stepped toward me, leaning into my back as she whispered, "It was meant to be a first anniversary surprise, but you're only just seeing it now." She kissed my fingertips, then pressed me against the floor-to-ceiling window. "That mall is yours," she murmured. My ears turned crimson. Why go to such lengths?" "Because I love you," she whispered, nipping at my earlobe. Hearing my shallow, ragged breathing, she grew bolder. "From the moment I first met you, I wanted to own you." I thought back to our boring blind date, thinking there was nothing special about it. It turned out her tastes were far more unique than I ever imagined. As the sunset dipped below the horizon, vibrant and intoxicating, I found myself weakly pleading for mercy amidst the intensity of our passion. Then, she whispered something in my ear that shattered a locked door in my memory. When I was a sophomore, I had been an exchange student in France for 3 months. I didn't know a word of French back then. A friend had dragged me to a small private pub, pointing to a woman at the bar. "Say this one sentence to the owner, and she'll give you a free drink." "What sentence?" I had asked. He grinned. "It means I think I've fallen for you."
But I didn't tell you that.
I had laughed, walked over, and tapped the woman on the shoulder. It was Serena. I repeated the phrase I didn't understand. "Je pense que je suis un amoureux de toi." A strange flicker had passed through her eyes. She signaled the bartender to give me an orange juice, then whispered something in French. Seeing my confusion, she switched to English. "Only orange juice for you tonight." That encounter left a lasting impression. Every day after class, I would return, order my juice, wave to her, and repeat the phrase, "I think I've fallen for you." Eventually, my studies got busy, and I stopped going. The memory faded into the background of my life. Until today. My French had improved over the years. When Serena whispered that phrase back to me, I completely collapsed. I couldn't keep my composure. I could barely even stand. Serena let out a soft, triumphant laugh. "Bryan, I assume you finally understand the meaning now." It wasn't that I just liked the place. It was that I had spent weeks smiling brightly at her, confessing my love over and over, before vanishing without a trace. When we met again at that blind date 3 years ago, the romance I had unknowingly started finally found its way back to us.